are many underrated books out there. Some might even be wrongly criticized for their plot, characters, etc., when they really should be praised for such things. In my opinion, one of these books is Jane Eyre, written by Charlotte Bronte in 1847. It is categorized as a coming-of-age novel. The story talks about a girl, Jane Eyre, and her journey to happiness while maintaining a good set of Christian morals. Most people bash this story due to Jane's lack of independence as a woman, and the terrible actions of Mr. Rochester. However, I strongly disagree with these assessments. Hi, I'm Samantha, and welcome to my channel. Without further ado, here's my review on the book Jane Eyre, and why I think it's a much better book than most people give it credit for. To start with, Jane's situation growing up was rather cleverly written. First, in A Home Unwanted, Jane does read her word, however, only enjoys it for the stories, and nothing more. Her actions are reasonable, yes, but she still has a lot to learn in life. As she grows up in a boarding school, she deals with more impossible standards from an unjust head, as well as the death of a close friend. While a good introduction to her story, I find not much to praise about in this portion of the book. Jane is still finding herself and does not do much in the way of impressing me. However, when Jane becomes a governess, her character truly starts to develop. Jane becomes rather well off, living in a grand manor called Thornfield, and only needing to teach and look after one little French girl named Adele. But rather quickly, she is met with a new difficult task, not falling in love with Mr. Rochester, the owner of Thornfield. With amazing willpower, Jane nearly succeeds in keeping her feelings to herself, as her first love is about to marry another, more beautiful and well-off woman. However, her strength only gives way as Mr. Rochester persists and reveals that the wedding was simply a ruse on his part to get Jane to confess to him. Soon they are nearly married, but the wedding is put to a stop. Plot twist, Jane finds out that Mr. Rochester is already married, to a woman named Bertha who we found out was mentally ill only after marrying her. Mr. Rochester tries to explain that he was stuck, and he couldn't divorce his wife as she has not committed adultery, nor has she died. He says that Jane can stay as his mistress, and that he would marry her if he could. This, to my pleasure, is not good enough for Jane. Her morals and character do not allow her to stoop to such a level, even though she loves Mr. Rochester so dearly. Instead, she runs off to find a way to live on her own. A small nitpick that I do have with this is that she leaves an expensive pearl necklace behind, as she feels it is not hers. I, however, would have kept such an item, as Jane doesn't have a lot of money in her own pocket. Once on her own, she has quite a bit of trouble finding work or a place to stay. She suffers 2 days of hunger, cold, and thirst until she finally reaches someone's home. The man, St. John, or St. John, who owns the house, lets her stay and even gives her a teaching job. Later, he finds out that Jane is his cousin and was the person to have £20,000 once their uncle died. Being the kind young lady she is, Jane splits the money into £5,000 for her 2 female cousins Diana and Mary, as well as St. John. This is a commendable moment for Jane, as not many would be capable of splitting the money so fairly, or even at all. She then goes on to potentially marry St. John and go to India with him as a missionary. However, her morals and values are strong once again as she turns him down. She explains that she is willing to go to India with him, but will not marry him, as she senses no love for her in him. She will only marry a man she loves. St. John tries many times to, and I personally think, manipulate Jane into saying yes, but thankfully she remains strong. Things really start to come to a head after one day Jane hears Mr. Rochester's voice in a vision. This prompts her to go back to Thornfield, though only to see how he's faring. Yet to her surprise, she finds Thornfield in ashes and everyone gone. She talks to an old servant of Mr. Rochester and finds out that he and a few of his servants are living in a small cottage out in the woods. The reason for Thornfield's ruin was that of Bertha, who decided to burn the manor to the ground as well as kill herself by jumping off the roof and into the burning building. Both horrified and slightly hopeful, Jane immediately goes to the cottage and meets with Mr. Rochester. There, she finds him without a hand or an eye, while the other remaining eye has left him almost blind. Yet, none of these infirmities matter to Jane. She's willing to stay with him, even marry Mr. Rochester. The injuries, past sins, and 20-year age difference doesn't make a difference to her. She still loves him. Mr. Rochester as well still loves Jane, no matter her young age, nor the fact that she suddenly left. He is willing to be waited on by her and give up his proud ways to be with her. The two are married and even have a child together. With both characters now completely at their potential, and now having obtained one of life's largest goals, Jane's story is complete. Now, a while back, I read an article wrote by an enraged woman on why Jane Eyre is such a horrible book. It offered up the usual arguments of Jane ending up married to a terrible man, and Bertha being treated terribly by the same man. However, I would counter that Jane Eyre is an incredible book that balances female independence along with the need for love. Additionally, there is all this hate for Mr. Rochester because of how he treated his wife Bertha. However, there is no evidence to doubt his claim that his wife was mentally insane. No one else provides a different story within the book, and Jane never finds evidence of a different reality. In conclusion, Jane's character and lifestyle could easily have depicted her as living single her whole life, never caring to marry a single soul after such a traumatizing situation. However, even when she succeeds in becoming rich and capable, she's willing to marry someone arguably underneath her at this point, simply for love. This is further amplified by Mr. Rochester's change in personality. No longer proud and rich, he has been humbled to be taken care of by such a wonderful woman. This is a story of what a woman should be like for all intents and purposes, and shows what power a woman can have regardless of her physical limits. Anyway, that's Jane Eyre in a nutshell, as well as my take on it. Be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!